right, here we go. Right.
We ready right now.
Yeah.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
How are you?
Hey, who wants to help me get this recorder out of here? I need some muscle over here.
You are listening to Blame Your Brother.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone, to Blame Your Brother, episode 246. We're back once again to entertain you for the next hour or so. We are streaming the show live on YouTube like we do every Thursday night at 8 p.m. So, hey, if you aren't hanging out with us in the chat, come by. It's fun. You can make some new friends, learn some things, watch mistakes happen in real time. It's all good. So, yeah, but we are Blame Your Brother. I'm one half of this duo. I am David, a.k.a. D-Brew, voice of people, Mr. 40%, Glenn Jackson, the spiritual midget, and Mr. Wonderful. And this gentleman sitting over to the left, it's John.
John here, everybody, a.k.a. Tico, a.k.a. Mr. Group Prime, Mr. PTI, the Madman.
They got John Tortorella, a madman.
They do a madman.
Okay, he's a madman.
All right, so there we go. David and John coming back at you. Before we get started, I just got to say, last week we talked about some OnlyFans was going to denounce pornography from their platform. Well, just 2 days ago, I believe, maybe yesterday, they said, no, we're not doing that. Forget that. We're not doing that.
They looked about how much money they make off of it.
Yeah, so they said, yeah, we're going to, let's put off that. And I got to say, we posted some things on social media with Carrie Underwood, and my God, we got a lot of views on that traffic. And so apparently there are a lot of Carrie Underwood fans out there, and they were divided on her. We talked about last week her liking an anti-mask tweet. We got into just social media in general, but boy, people are kind of passionate about Carrie Underwood, and some people said she was an idiot, and one guy said she was not an idiot, but misspelled idiot, so almost against his point there. But he called her she's not an audiot. ODIOT. So if you're keeping up, but so yeah, those were the big things last week. And I think somebody on Twitter said, oh God, what was the name? I think they said their favorite band name was Bluto, I believe, if I'm saying it right. So, yeah. Anyway, well, we're gonna move on. This week we have the Mount Rushmore of NFL quarterbacks, all-time best quarterbacks that was sent in by a listener, right? Chris Gregory, I believe, sent us that.
Which goes to prove we are I'm not going to say only, but we're probably one of the only podcasts that really do everything that are,
We are dancing monkeys. I mean, at the end of the day, if you send in a list, we're going to try to do it. But yeah, so in honor of, NFL season is back. Preseason games are going on. Regular season starts in just 2 weeks. We are very excited to bring you the Mount Rushmore of NFL quarterbacks. Lots of news to discuss. And Saturday, I'm going to go make an appearance on the Sobros Network podcast. Stone Keeley, who is I believe the head honcho of Sobros Network. You can go find those guys on social media. Type Sobros Network. I'm going to be on their podcast. So it should be a fun time. I'm sure sports will be discussed. They're heavily on sports, pop culture, movies, fun group of people, fun entertainment. I always like to read what they put out, check out their Instagram lives and all that. So, yeah, so be looking forward to that. So that's just sports. That's what I thought of. So, all right, John, anything new going on? We know that 2 weeks ago you got in a car wreck. Still dealing with the car wreck situation?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, what is the deal, man?
We finally did get a quote from the insurance company, so now we can actually move forward with getting a new car.
Do you know what the estimate is? Is it more than you thought? I mean, you don't tell us.
It's more than we thought.
Okay,
so
that's
that was good.
So you're shopping for cars.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go? You going to Carvana, CarMax, or you just...
We're checking Carvana, Cars.com, and Car Guru are our three main sources that we're looking.
I have bought every car since I've met my wife. We go exclusively through CarMax. I like the company. They've always been good to us. We bought a couple cars with them now, so if people are out there looking, there's definitely more options today than there were back in the late 90s, for sure. I mean, back in the 90s, you were just being held hostage by car salespeople. You knew you were getting screwed, and you were just like, well, this is part of the process. Which is funny that just in society in general, I've been thinking about this a lot, but just how much society has changed since the late 90s. The late 90s were like mine and John, we're adults, becoming adults, experiencing the world, living through our childhood, and now just to look where we're at in 2021, it's like a different world we live in. It's, I mean, social media has taken over. I think people are gradually, for the most part, are getting more kind to each. I know you look at the news, you're like, no, that's not true. But I think that's a small minority of people. But I think just the way people raise their kids today, the way people interact with each other I think it's getting better. Is it perfect? No. Will it ever be perfect?
I think when you come to the average home, I think kindness is being preached.
Right. I mean, you think like,
so, yeah.
When we grew up, I mean, spankings were just, that was
part of growing up.
I mean, it was what it is. Now it's like, doesn't exist. Like if you meet someone that spanks their kids, you're like, okay, dude, sure, man. Like that's that what you do? And psychologists have said, yeah, it's not healthy. And it's amazing to watch everything kind of grow before us. And sometimes I think we're living in it, so we don't really think about it too much, but I don't know. I think of that when buying a car, because I used to dread going to buy a car. It was like the worst experience ever. I mean, really, I was like, I don't want to do this. I think I'd rather just walk everywhere, but it's gotten much easier with all that. Yeah. So you're dealing with car wreck. Anything else going on this week worth mentioning?
Not really. Just working a lot.
I'm telling you, school's back in session, so we're staying busy with that. That's a whole ordeal. Especially I got 2 in essentially middle school now, and one's in the band, and it's kind of like the barrage of emails you get from school. It's insane. Like, I mean, I get multiple emails a day, where so much now I'm not even reading some of them. And I know that's probably not good, but I'm like, I can't read all these emails. Some days I'll get 7 emails from the school in one day.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping my wife is reading them. I mean, most times she is, but I'm like, that's why I'm saying, like, if you're I often think if you were a single parent, people are like, being a mom, it's the hardest job in the world. But it's like, yeah, man, but being a single parent really, to me, probably is one of the toughest jobs in the world. I mean, I know people, I work construction, but I'm saying just, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your kids more so than ever, especially you're living alone. It's like, I can't even imagine. Like, I try to imagine sometimes. I'm like, I just can't, I can't imagine. And, what a crazy world we live in. Well, I'm telling you, anything happened to me this week? We had plans on Saturday to go to the lake. Oh, no, that was the week before. Yes, I haven't done anything. I mean, truthfully, sometimes it's great to just have a lazy weekend. Yeah. So,
I'm pleasantly surprised if I don't have plans.
Right.
So, what are you doing this weekend? Nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
You're saying, I like it. I like doing nothing. So, well, let's get into the news, man. Now, we do have 2 notable rest in pieces, okay? Now, the first one, I just want to hit on Phil Valentine, local news radio host, passed away. And this is
it's been in the news heavily.
Right. It's an important story locally because he was a Nashville broadcaster. He was a conservative Nashville broadcaster. We need to keep just kind of telling the story here. And he was a man that got on the radio, and essentially, here's the thing with a lot of these guys. They're very good at what they do. They are good broadcasters. Whether you like Rush Limbaugh, you hate the man, you love him, whatever, he was good at his job. I mean, if you didn't like what he was saying, that's a different story altogether, That's like saying, hey, Imagine Dragons, okay? Do I like Imagine Dragons? They're not my cup of tea, but I can say they're very talented. They create hit songs. They're good at what they do, whether you like them or not, okay? Rush Limbaugh and a lot of these conservative guys, they're really good at their job. Clay Travis, I don't like him at all anymore, but he's really good at what he does for what he's trying to do. So Phil Valentine was a guy that would get on and just preach against getting vaccinated without saying it like in your face almost. But then he would post things that were blatantly anti-vaccination. He even had a parody song by the Beatles called Vax Man, set to the tone of Tax Man. Now, if I was a conservative, I would think it would be hilarious, right? As not, I feel it blasphemous for a number of reasons. Number one, the Beatles would be, John Lennon would be rolling over his grave if he knew, him and George Harrison would hate the fact that this guy was using this to preach anti-vaccination messages. Okay. So Phil he got COVID about 3 weeks ago, I believe, just in that time range. And he posted on, I I've got COVID. I'm going to be all right. I'm doing my thing to get herd immunity. And then things took a turn for the worse. Phil went to the hospital. Phil couldn't breathe. Phil's organs were shutting down. Phil was on a ventilator. Phil was on experimental medication. And I just kept searching every day because I was like, this guy's dead. Like, once you get to a certain stage, the odds of you surviving are next to nothing. Yeah. And so he did pass away, I believe I want to say it was this past weekend, I believe. If I'm wrong on the timeline, sorry. But, that's upsetting for a number of reasons. And, once again, is it sad when people die? Of course. It's sad to someone, whether it's sad to you listening or sad to me or not really. I mean, I didn't know the man, but he has a family. He has friends. He has people that care for him. So it's obviously sad for them. We've all gone through losing someone. We know that sucks. It's one of the worst feelings, because the person's never coming back to you. But the fact that he continually spewed out this nonsense that was unfactual and untrue, I just can't really feel too sorry for the man. I mean, if you would have just gotten vaccinated, man, you'd probably still be alive today.
Yeah.
And the only thing I hope can come out of it is that his listeners, I doubt this will happen, but his listeners will hear this message and be like, all right, it's time to put this nonsense away. This was a guy I looked up to. This was a guy that was on the radio. I've heard the message. I'm going to go get vaccinated now. I actually work with a woman who is my direct supervisor. And for weeks, she has not been vaccinated, And when I went back into the office to work, this was like a daily thing that was talked about. Like, she would bring it up or I would bring it up. And, there was days where it got kind of heated and there was days where it was just kind of, more of a conversation. And she actually went and got vaccinated before Pfizer got approved by the FDA. And I think deep down, I don't know this, but I think I probably had something to do with that. I mean, I can get under people's skin for sure. And I hope.
I mean, I can attest to that aspect.
Yes. I hope I had something to do with it. And I hope, her and her family, she's got 2 children. So, I care for this person. I work with this person. It's one of my friends I work with. And so I hope, just feels.
I can totally see you just like every day walking in. I saved your life.
I should.
You can't prove that I didn't.
I haven't done it. Yeah, I should though. I did say it to everybody I work around, but yeah. So, but I hope Phil's death honestly just makes a pathway for some of the people that listen to him to reevaluate their stance on this. That's the only thing to get for, and maybe not though. At this point, a lot of the conservatives said, hey, when the vaccination is FDA approved, I'm going to get it. And now they're going, well, I don't trust the government. Well, it's like, well, then you were lying the entire time. I mean, are you saying you will get it when it's approved or you're not? So I don't know where we're at, John. I mean, Trump had a rally. I don't know why Trump's having rallies, but he had a rally in some city in Alabama. I think like Cothran, Alabama.
I've seen posts where people are hoping he runs again. And
You've seen posts, brother. My neighbor across the street has a Trump 2024 sign in his front yard. Yeah, I see it every day I go out of my house, man. It's right there. He was at a rally in Alabama, and he basically. It's unbelievable. One of the big things I do around my house now is when my children do chores, I act like I'm having a heart attack because I'm so surprised by it. My son actually, I took the trash out.
I can see you do that too.
And he
Elizabeth, I'm
yes,
coming.
Pretty much. I'm doing Fred Sanford for sure. My son put a trash bag in the trash can. I went, oh God, I'm having a heart attack. Come on, call it. Trump said at a rally, and I almost had a heart attack when I read this, that everyone should get vaccinated. And do you know what the crowd did when he said these words, John?
What happened?
They booed him. They booed the man, and then he goes, well, yeah, it's whatever. Yeah, I mean, you have your liberties. You do whatever you want. But he did say out loud at a rally that everyone should get vaccinated. He said, everyone should get vaccinated. I have. And then when they started booing him, he did it at about face. Well, if you want to. But it's just odd, man. I'd say anyway, I just want to touch on Phil Valentine. I have been interested in that for a while.
I think Trump is starting to realize if all the people that are wanting to vote for me
are dead,
I'm definitely not going to win.
I'm in big trouble here. All right, well, let's talk about the other big death, though. Charlie Watts, drummer for the Rolling Stones, passed away at 80-something years old. And once again, I mean, when people die at 80, I'm never like sad for them unless they went through some pain on the way. I mean, you know, to be the drummer in the Rolling Stones and live till 80, I think he lived a pretty darn good life, you know.
I mean, considering the life that this guy's led,
I mean, yeah, right, you know.
I'm kind of surprised, but I mean, I've drummed
yes
in a band, and that's no easy feat. And for him to still be going,
oh, it's crazy.
I know they had to cancel. Well, he had to cancel a few of those last shows.
Yeah,
but the fact that these last shows, up until then, he was still going, and
it's crazy. Like I mean,
yeah. I can't think of the phrase rock and roll and the Rolling Stones not coming.
Oh
to
yeah,
mind.
it's synonymous for sure.
As far as modern day rock, that's their. I mean, Chuck Berry, I would say, is the father of rock and roll.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, the next band or artist that comes to my mind after that, it would be the Rolling Stones.
Yeah. If someone doesn't like the Stones or the Beatles, you're just thinking, who are you?
What's wrong with you?
And not, I'm not saying love them. I'm saying like them. Like, I actually was playing some Stones today on the record player, just kind of because I saw the store and said, let's, spend a little time with little Charlie here. And they made some amazing songs. I mean, just, one of the greatest bands of all time, And the thing about Charlie Watts is, you're on there with Keith and Mick, and those are two huge personalities. And he was he was a quiet guy. He was a guy that kind of just laid back and just happened to have a seat to be on the right, kind of like Ringo. I mean, in my opinion, Ringo obviously was a bigger personality than him, but these were guys that were at the back watching, and we never really think about this, but they were watching the greatest duos in rock history perform every night,
just unfold.
And they were part of it. This wasn't a dude up on stand watching. This guy was part of the magic happening, but he was able to watch them every night. And you wonder
and when some of the things that Keith Richards said about him, he said the Rolling Stones wouldn't be the Rolling Stones without Charlie Watts.
Yeah, that's a big compliment.
I mean, you can't.
I mean, do you think if you're in that situation, do you realize, do you think you still, not that you're in all of these guys, but I still think I would be in a little bit of awe if I was around Keith Richards every night and Mick Jagger, but I just can't even imagine. That's the thing. I can't imagine. Do you ever feel you're on their level? Because you look at Dave Grohl, who's, one of the greatest modern rock drummers of all time. Foo Fighters, probably, someone wants to come at me, but probably the best modern rock band there is in the last 20 years. I don't know who you'd put up against them. That just had the longevity they've had, the songs, the craftsmanship. Even Dave Grohl said in Nirvana, he never, and this is one of the greatest rock drummers, said he never really felt like he was ever on Kurt's level. That's insane to think about. You're like, dude.
Well, the jokes go flying when it comes to drummers.
Yeah.
And it's just, what do you call a person that follows around a bunch of musicians?
Drummer.
A drummer.
Yeah,
And so, a lot of people that believe that all the talent resides on the front of that stage,
right,
and not on the back. But you look at people like Charlie Watts and Neil Peart.
Yeah.
And just there's a lot of really phenomenal people on those kits that
hold it together. They're essentially holding the songs together. And I've said this before, and I'll go back to it. I think most of the Beatles are underrated, and I know people, what? I know they're respected as a band, right? Everyone, come on, man. If you meet someone, they're like, Beatles suck, they're just trolling you at that point, right? But their technical skills, I think, are sometimes undersold. And I think Ringo Starr is one of those drummers that's undersold quite a bit. He was a phenomenal drummer. Come on, man.
If you look at the other guys, the fact that he was still in the band,
yeah.
They could have cut him loose
at any point,
right, and found somebody else if that was an option,
right. But you can go listen. I've been listening to a lot of Paul McCartney's bass playing, and I'm like, this dude was one of the great bass players I don't hear him in conversations. Go listen to Rubber Soul, Revolver, Sgt. Pepper. His bass lines, I've been listening to a lot
melodic
of headphones, and it's so badass. It's just, he's driving most of these songs, and it's fantastic. But yeah, Charlie Watts, obviously, one of the greats, and obviously, rest in peace, and hopefully, what will they do moving forward? I'm sure they'll find another drummer because they want to keep making money, but obviously he'll never be replaced. So, you always have to take time to just put a rest in peace to someone, a legend. Always will be a legend. So now I was speaking of Nirvana, and I want to definitely talk about this top story here, John. I don't know if you've heard this or not, but this is a wild, wild story here. We've all seen the Nirvana album cover. It's on the screen right now. If you're in the live chat, that's a young man, a baby on the album cover who's now he's a man, he's a grown man. His name's Spencer Eldon. He was 4 months old at the time the picture was taken. Iconic album cover. You show that to anyone our age, they know instantly that's Nirvana. It's synonymous with Nirvana. Kids probably recognize it. It's a baby in a swimming pool going for a $1 bill on a fish hook, and his little wee-wee's exposed. Okay. Now, I've always thought it was a bit odd, but, whatever. It is what it is. And babies, having babies, boys come with that. That's part of the package,
Yeah.
And they used him for the album cover, and I think it's one of the greatest album covers. And we'll have to do a Mount Rushmore of album covers at one point, because I would love to do that. And that would definitely be one of my top ones. But anyways, that was 30 years ago. Well, a case filed Tuesday alleges that the grunge rock band Nirvana engaged in commercial child pornography when it used a photo of a naked baby on the cover of its iconic album Nevermind. So the group went on to sell 30 million copies of the record, meaning that a large percentage of the population could be at risk for possessing an image of child sex abuse by owning the album if the suit succeeds. So, John, if this was to pass, you're looking at a man who owns, according to this, I own child pornography in my house because I own this album on vinyl. I go to it a lot. It's one of my albums I love to listen to. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. Let's go deeper into it. Fortunately, the article says, for Nirvana fans, it likely will not. Nirvana most likely wouldn't be liable for the picture, but readers Googling this photo to see it for themselves do so at their own peril. Now, when Spencer was 4 months old, like I said, he was dunked in a swimming pool as part of a photo shoot for the album. It featured him, his clearly visible penis underwater as he appeared to chase a $1 bill dangling at the end of a fishing line. The man's now 30 and claims this means Nirvana knowingly produced, possessed, and advertised commercial child pornography with his image and knowingly received value in exchange for doing so. Now, that's, the plaintiff seeking monetary damages, blah, blah, blah. But child pornography does not describe just any picture with nude minors. It has to include a visual depiction of sexually explicit conduct where the production involves the use of a minor engaging in such conduct. And it goes on about courts recognizing this. But this is going to court. This man, Spencer, is suing the band Nirvana, which is now Dave Grohl, Chris Novoselic, and Courtney Love would be the proprietors of the band, is suing them for child pornography. I'm just going to let you go off. What are your initial thoughts on this?
It's an attempted cash grab. The guy, he's a loser. He thought that since he had this famous picture, he'd be able to coast through life, and apparently he got tired of having a 9-to-5, and he's like, wait a minute, I think I could,
It's insane. Okay, here's why it's insane for a number of reasons. Number one, obviously his parents consented to this album cover. You don't walk up to babies.
Otherwise, it would have been the parents suing them a long time ago.
Right. You don't grab a 4-year-old and just go throw them in the pool. Which I've always thought is cool that babies can just go underwater and not drown. Like they're just like, yeah, cool. I'm in the water. It's all good. I lived in my mom's placenta for 9 months. I'm cool with this. But here's the thing about it that really bothers me is that this kid. And he's a kid. He's 30 years. I guess he's an adult now. But he would regularly do photo shoots as he grew up in this pose over and over and over again. And he has the name of the album tattooed on the top of his chest. So at any point along the way, you cannot. It's just insane, man. Like when this came out, a bunch of people sent me messages about this because, people know I love Nirvana, right? And they go, I know you're going to talk about this on your podcast. I went, well, yeah, how could I not talk about this on my podcast? But it is just, it's asinine. It's like you said, it's blatantly a cash grab. It's ironic that in the picture on the album cover, he's going for a $1 bill, and 30 years later, he's still chasing that dollar. He's still chasing the dollar. 30 years later. Like,
very poetic.
it's almost they went back. You know, it's like Nirvana with time travelers. They saw this case and like, wait, man, let's go back in time and let's put a dollar bill on that. And like, you can't make that irony up. The man's still chasing the dollar from Nirvana 30 years later. It's insanity at its peak level. It's crazy, John. What world do we live in where this guy, number one, let's say he has a point. That means everyone that owns that album, like I said earlier, you possess child pornography now at this point. I mean,
here's another little thing. Say he does have a point. Are you telling me for the last 12 years, as an adult, he was okay with it?
Well, you know he was, because I can show you pictures of him posing for it when in his 20s.
Yeah.
Clothing. He was wearing clothing at that point. But yeah, it's just crazy. The internet has not been kind to this guy. And I will say this. This is
well deserved.
It's the only thing I'm going to say. That there's sometime, and at this point, I will stick by, yes, cash grab. But I've learned enough in my 44 years on this earth that a lot of the time we will see a certain story and we will view it a certain way. I think the McDonald's lady who had the hot coffee spilled on her is one of the prime examples. Everyone our age knows about this story. A woman went to the McDonald's drive-thru. They gave her coffee. The lid was not on loose. It spilled, third-degree burns on her legs, private area, groin, stomach. It was bad. And at the time, it was a running joke among people I knew, among stand-up comedians, among night show hosts that, oh, yeah, you're suing McDonald's for hot coffee. Now, you learn later that there was a podcast listened to about it. There's a documentary about it that actually McDonald's wasn't negligent on many levels for this. They were making the coffee like 50 degrees hotter than it should have been. They were not properly putting the tops on the thing. And we look back and go, oh, man, maybe we're a little bit too harsh to this woman. Yeah, and there's other examples. There's a lot of examples where you'll watch a story and go, oh, I didn't know. I don't know in this case if we're going to get that out. I don't know. Who's to say? This is life. Who knows? But at this point, it seems like the man needs some money. So why not just start a GoFundMe? It seems it would be easier. And the kindness of the internet I've seen is people will gladly kick in for a GoFundMe, especially for this guy.
If he has at this point, it might be too late. But I mean, if he came across with a more sympathetic, instead of, yeah, you owe me, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, dude, if you need money, just tell us. The internet will give you money because you're a quasi-celebrity. I'm telling you, if this dude would put up a GoFundMe going, I'm in dire straits, to name the band from last week. I'm in dire straits. I need some money. People would have kicked in. Hell, I would have probably kicked in.
I mean, he could have probably started a monetized podcast just on his fame alone.
That's true. I mean, you're right. He could have talked about Nirvana for like 100 episodes and gotten paid. It's ridiculous. That's bad. Okay, anyways, I want to also talk about a trailer that dropped this week, Spider-Man. The trailer hit the internet. John, have you seen this trailer?
I have seen it.
Multiple times, haven't you? Hell yeah, I have too, man. I am jacked to the moon on this one.
Excited.
How good is this movie going to be? What are we in, phase 2 now?
Phase 4.
Phase 4 Marvel films? Yeah, you're right. Phase 4, this is going to be the best Marvel movie. There's no way this is not the best Marvel movie based on the trailer alone. The Spider-Man movies have low-key been some of the best Marvel movies anyway.
Yeah.
I know Captain America, yes, all those movies are great. Guardians of the Galaxy are great. The Avengers were great. But the Spider-Man movies have been up there. Like the first Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland is great.
One would argue that Tom Holland's appearance in Captain America Civil War elevated that movie.
Oh, God. It was the best. Truthfully, best part of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that and Ant-Man turning into Giant Man, those are two, same scene in the movie. Phenomenal scenes. You're like, oh, like Black Panther was in that movie, and it's just like, I barely remember he was in the movie because of the Spider-Man scene.
Yeah.
Tom Holland is a godsend to the Marvel Universe. So if you haven't watched the trailer, basically, we take off from the trailer.
It's almost immediately after.
Yes, everyone knows.
Far From Home.
Everyone knows that he's Peter Parker. The whole world knows, because Mysterio outed him at the end of the movie. And we learned that everyone does know it. And he's basically, won it, essentially, or that's what they're leading to. You never know. And so he goes to Doctor Strange in the trailer and he says, I need you to fix this. I need you to erase me from everyone's memory. And while doing the spell, and this is the part I want to kind of expand on, Doctor Strange is like, everybody
forget.
Everyone. But I'm like, but that would make the Avengers forget him as well, right? That part, if the rest of the trailer wasn't badass of appearances by Doc Ock, an appearance essentially by the Green Goblin from the Tobey Maguire movies, okay? I mean, that should blow your mind alone. But the thing I like is the possibilities this could open up for story-wise, because now we get back to no one knowing who. It's like a reset. Like, no one will know who he is, you know? Aunt May's not going to know who he is. MJ's not going to know who he is. Ned Beatty's not. I mean, no one. The Avengers aren't going to know who he is. Is Doctor Strange going to know who he is? He said everybody. Is he protected, though? Maybe Doctor Strange protected, but
I think because he's doing the spell.
Okay, but
it's kind of like when you go back in time.
Right. But the new Captain America's not going to know who he is. I mean, none of the new Avengers will know who he is, right? I mean, they'll know who Spider-Man is, but they won't know his secret identity. I think it's a fascinating concept, and I believe we're going to get all three Spider-Men in this movie. I'm very confident. They're not in the trailer.
There is some electrical aspects happening in part of the trailer, which would lead to Jamie Foxx.
Yes, Electro,
in it as well. So.
Dude, bring it. And it's coming in Christmas Day. So short of the Delta variant being out of control and we're back in lockdown, I'm going to that movie the day it comes out. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's the only movie I'm like, if you're driven to see.
Oh, yeah.
And everything else, I'll just as soon watch it on Disney Plus or whatever.
Right.
But,
I'm with you on that. Yeah, so that's going to be amazing. Now, okay, so I definitely just want to touch on that real quick. Everyone should go watch it if you haven't seen the trailer. But let's also talk about the new episode of
What If?
What If? So this is a show last week I maybe didn't clarify. What If is a Marvel product that is shown on Disney Plus. It is an ongoing series where they take a story and they change a little bit of it. And what if this happened? What if the first episode? What if Captain America didn't become Captain America? What if it was what's her name?
Peggy Carter.
Peggy Carter. Next episode. What if Star-Lord was the Black Panther? So this week's episode was what if the Avengers Initiative went horribly wrong? I don't know what the episode was called, but that was essentially what it was called. What if
what if the world never got its mightiest heroes?
Yes. So I'm going to go to you again. Thoughts on this episode?
Of the three, it's my least favorite, but it's still good.
I think I liked it better than the first one. I liked it quite a bit. I thought it was cool because it took scenes from the Avengers movie, the exact scenes, and played right into it. I thought I liked that. I digged it. It was essentially a Nick Fury story, but I liked the ending. I thought it was good. The ending's very funny, actually. We're not going to get into what the ending is, but I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. I mean, but I thought it was fun. It got us our Phase 1 Avengers, which people like, because they're gone. This is the only way you can get them now, unless you go back and watch the movie again. But fantastic. I thought it was fantastic. It was great, and so far, man. I mean, they're batting 1,000 so far, man. It's fantastic to see. So I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I mean, like I said, I was a skeptic at first, but I've come around and I'm all in on What If. I did not think I would say that. And the new Marvel movie comes out this next week. It's called Shang-Chi, right?
Yeah.
93% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it must be good. I mean, Rotten Tomatoes, whether you live on their altar or not, they generally can give you an idea of whether the movie's good or bad, And for that to get a 93, I think it says a lot. So, I mean, once again, I'm going to see it. I'm not excited about it. Not like I'm excited about Spider-Man, but I definitely will watch it.
Says the guy wearing a Wu-Tang shirt.
Right, yeah. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, okay. Yeah, so I think that was the big news stories this week. I guess we're going to get started then. It is time for the Mount Rushmore of NFL quarterbacks. That's right. So let's talk a little bit about sports before we get started. I used to be I would say massive sports fan. I would say diehard sports fan. Now, I'm just going to be honest. Last couple of years, that has waned quite a bit. Why is that? Oh, man. I've thought about this a lot. And I think as you get older and you have kids, you kind of say the game's not as important to me as it used to be. Like when I didn't have kids,
makes sense.
You could hang a lot onto football. I mean, because especially when we had a local team here. I was like, oh, my God, this is what I've wanted my whole life. Like I grew up as a child NFL fan, but never had a full team to root for. And now Titans come to Tennessee. I'm like, I'm all in on this team. I would watch every game. I would go to game. I was passionate about it, but I still love football. I don't want people to think no, I love football. But am I such a diehard fan of the Titans now? If they lose, I mean, I'll get a little bit upset during the game, but let's move on. Where are you at with your sportsdom? Where you're at now?
I'm with you. I mean, if the Titans were to win every game this season, and I mean they're the team I support,
right?
The following day will be no different than if they lost every game.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. I mean, but now if they won every game, I would be excited. I would start to get excited, man. If they went 17-0, because now it's 17 games. If they win 17, I'd probably get back into it. I mean, that would be a pretty phenomenal run, right? I mean, I think the problem with the Titans is they're so mediocre, but they're mediocre good. That's hard to stay excited for a long time. Like knowing, okay, the Patriots are probably going to win most of the time. Like that's just how it happened, over the last few years. If it's not them, it's teams with elite quarterbacks. And the Titans, I love Steve McNair. He is my favorite quarterback of all time, but he ain't on Mount Rushmore. I'm just going to make that. I don't know if he's on John's, but he's not on my Mount Rushmore. I will say that right now. But minus him, our quarterbacks have been mediocre. We've got a guy now who's good. I mean, he's not bad. He's probably in the upper echelon, but he's not an elite quarterback. Elite quarterbacks, you're talking your Tom Brady's, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, elite. Yeah. Guys where you're like, we could win the Super Bowl every year with one of these guys. We've never had that. Yeah. So that's why it's just enough mediocrity over time. It's tough.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, quarterback is obviously the most important position in football.
I dare say that going across every sport, if you were to pick one person that really represents a team, the quarterback for every sport.
I mean, he essentially on offense is going to get the ball every play, one way or another. I mean, you have a few trick plays here and there, but most plays he's going to get the ball. I mean, he's running the show. I mean, he's out.
I mean, he even holds aside from punts, that's it.
Right. He's the field general. I mean, the team lives or dies on the quarterback's shoulders. Let's just keep it real. I mean, I know it. Many years ago, you could win with a crap quarterback. I mean, I look at Baltimore Ravens, Elvis Gerback, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I can't. Johnson something. I can't remember the dude's name. Yes, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, you could win. Now with a crap quarterback, you can't do that anymore.
No.
You can't. I mean, you've got your quarterbacks at least got to be really good. I know people say Joe Flacco, but when the Ravens won, Joe Flacco was playing elite level. I mean, it was crazy. So we're going to break down. This is the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Mount Rushmore.
NFL quarterbacks.
Did you have other quarterbacks?
Well, I mean, just to specify.
I really want to know, like, were you going to go Canadian football?
No, well,
Doug Flutie?
There might be people that have that would change at least the ranking if you include their college career.
Okay, you're saying, I see what you're saying. In the NFL, yes, I get what you're saying. Their NFL career. I'd secretly hoped you would have all Mormons on your quarterback Mount Rushmore, which would be great. I mean, because honestly, there's been some pretty good ones.
I mean, there's one that might make an appearance.
Oh, there's one that will, but they've been pretty good. So, yeah. All right, so we're going to get started. John goes first this week. So, John, who is number one on your Mount Rushmore of NFL quarterbacks?
Now, since I am a wonderful and dear friend, I'm not going to take the first choice.
I mean, you can take them. It's fine.
It'd be sacrilege for anyone that listens to this podcast
for
him not to be on your list.
If this is your first time listening, I'm a Tom Brady stan. I love Tom Brady. I've loved him. Here's the thing people understand. I didn't start liking Tom Brady in the middle of the run. I've loved him from the moment he started in New England. I remember I called my brother up and I said, this guy's it, man. He's it.
Bledsoe's out, and then
I told him, I said, this dude's the future, man. And he went, I don't know. I went, okay, man, whatever you want to say. All right, so
I'm not going to say Tom Brady.
So who are you going to say?
I'm going to say this man from 8 years old and under. I mean, 8 or 9. If you ask me to name a football player, this is the only one I could name.
Right.
This is the only
I know
one I
who
knew.
he is. Yeah, I know.
Joe Montana.
Okay.
Joe Montana.
Oh, Broadway Joe. I mean,
Yeah.
no, that's not Broadway. That's wrong
wait,
Joe.
that's wrong Joe.
That's wrong Joe. That's did Joe Montana have a nickname? It's like Joe Cool. That's what he was called, Joe Cool. Let me tell you about my past history with Joe Montana. The year, I don't remember, but I went to, I always tell people, I went to Martin Luther King Jr. for one day. It was a magnet school I got accepted into. I won a lottery. And the first day there, I wore my Joe Montana football shirt because I love Joe Montana. I was a Chiefs fan, and I loved him in the 49ers. You're right, who didn't? I mean, he's one of the greatest to ever play the game. Clutch gene out the wazoo. But when we went to the Chiefs, I was one of the most excited times I'd been in my life at that point. I was like, oh, my God, because I was a Chiefs fan. Because I was just like, well, I'm going to pick the closest teams to me. Kansas City's pretty close to Tennessee, so I'll like them. And I was like, I'm going to like a team that wins the Super Bowl. Now, unfortunately, he was in the later stages of his career, and it didn't happen. But, yeah, I mean, Joe Montana, what does he bring to the list for you?
I mean, Montana to Rice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just – I mean, I've talked about the Utah Jazz before, and whenever there's like a connection between two players like that,
it's electric.
I mean, and the thing is just like, I mean, Charlie Sheen ruined the phrase, but winning.
Yes, we never lost in a play. He never lost a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
undefeated as a Super Bowl. You know, that's pretty insane.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a short list. I mean, I'm trying to think. Is there anyone else that's never lost?
I mean, that's gone multiple times.
Yes, it's gone multiple times. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there is. I'm sure Michael Anthony. Speaking of Michael Anthony real quick, he wants to do a pick'em league this year in the NFL. I told him we were not necessarily interested in doing that, but if the listeners want to pick against Michael Anthony, we could give out a prize at the end of the year if you can beat Michael Anthony. That's how. So anyway, I just throw that out there. If he wants to set that up, he can do it. But if you're interested in picking against Michael Anthony, a listener of the show, we'll go for it. Anyways, yes. So winner. He's great, clutch, all that. So okay, good pick. All right. Well, my number one, I'm going to throw a curve, but no, I'm just kidding. It's Tom Brady, obviously.
I mean, if you did that, I'd be like, you know what, you lost your chance.
Yes. I mean, I could go on about Tom Brady for a year. You know how I feel about the man. Most Super Bowls of quarterback ever. Has more than most teams have. Just a clutch player. And the one point I'll reference here, because I know people, oh, he's not that great. When you think of Joe Montana, you think of him and Jerry Rice. Tom Brady, for one season essentially, had Randy Moss on the team. This wasn't elite Randy Moss. It's not peak Manny, but still Randy Moss. I mean, broke the single season touchdown record that season. Okay, now. Take away Randy Moss. I want anyone out there to tell me 5 wide receivers that aren't Wes Welker that Tom Brady has been able I'll give you you can name another. I would say white wide receivers because there's Edelman and there's Wes Welker. If I take those dudes out, can you name 5 receivers Tom Brady's had on his team? I'm guaranteeing you, unless you're talking to diehard sports fans, no. I can barely name 2. And I've been watching the Patriots for years. I
mean, he spreads it.
I mean, think about that. He's never, except for that one year, has never had an elite receiver. Never. And it's insane. It's insane to think about. So, all right, yeah, Tom Brady. I'll keep it short and sweet on that one. I mean, people, the regular listeners know how I feel about the man. You know, everyone knows. Tom Brady, it goes without saying. All right, let's go. Your number 2.
My number 2, a lot of people would probably argue that he should have been my number 1 pick.
This is interesting. Okay,
and the reason, obvious for personal reasons, I didn't pick him as my number 1. But also, a lot of people are basing a lot of his greatness on his college career as well. And I was kind of focused on NFL only, and so my number 2 pick is Peyton Manning.
Okay. Well, yeah. If there's no Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, to me, is the greatest quarterback that's ever played the game.
He's like a philosopher of football on the field. I
mean, let's say we do what if. What if there was no Tom Brady? I believe Peyton Manning would have had probably about 5 Super Bowls, 100%. I mean, Tom Brady was so good, he was stopping Peyton Manning multiple times from getting to the Super Bowl, from getting further ahead. I mean, the best field general that's ever played the game. I mean, the man knew the defense. He studied so much. He could go out. He would see just a guy step a certain way. Knew the coverage already. Did he have the best arm? No. I mean, he says in interviews he did not. But his understanding of the game is godlike. I mean, if you put him and Tom Brady's understanding of the game together, perfect quarterback.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lineage of Mannings. I mean, Eli won a couple of Super Bowls. They've got Cooper coming up. It's probably going to be good. It's insane. That family, Archie, his dad played. I mean, so there is something in the DNA there. But, yeah, I mean, I hate Peyton Manning. And I'm going to tell you why I hate Peyton Manning. I was a Vanderbilt Commodores fan, so whooped our butt every year. And then I was a Titans fan, and he whooped our butt all the time there. So, of course, I hate the man, but I think you can only hate someone if they're great. I don't hate like scrubs. I'm like, who cares about that guy? I consider that like a badge of honor that I hate him. I hate Ray Lewis because they're two of the best players that have ever played at their positions, and they would spank the Titans all the time.
Yeah.
But, man, I'd see him be stupid if I said, no, like I said, there's no Tom Brady. He's my number one. But there is a Tom Brady. So, yeah. I mean, Peyton Manning had some decent receivers over the years. I mean, he had Marvin Harrison, who's an all-timer. So he did have one for many years.
Really, really up there as far as.
He's a murderer. But, I mean, apparently Ray Lewis is too. So, what do you got to do? But these players out here killing people, man, like literally murdering people. Like, not murdering them on the field, murdering them outside the field. But, yeah. All right, Peyton Manning, any more thoughts on him?
No.
Got it? Okay. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go for my number 2. I'm going to go – I could grab a couple of you guys, but I'm not going to because I think we put a lot of emphasis on winning, right? And I think it's important to a large degree, but I think sometimes you're just on crappy teams. And I think the GM front office does not put good talent around you. You can't win. I mean, the NFL is a little bit different. NBA, you're a good enough player, you're going to win eventually or you'll come close. But Dan Marino is my number 2. I mean,
very good pick.
I mean, really, besides another guy that might come up later, changed the state of football as far as how often he would throw, how often the offense would get into the air game. This guy was one of the talent for talent, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game.
I would probably say if he's not number 1, he's close as far as best quarterbacks that never got a ring.
Oh, he's number 1.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he is. I mean, the man could throw. He understood the game, but he was on crap teams. He got close. I think the first year he played, he came really close. And after that, the front office was just like, who cares, man? I mean, Miami's not a good place. I know it used to be back in the 70s, but after that collapse, that team has not been good ever.
No.
I mean, he was the closest they could come. But, I grew up watching him, and he was, he was a stud. He could throw. He just understood the game. So I think understanding the game but he had natural talent as well. And it's a shame. I wish he had won one, but I mean, it's just not how it goes. Sometimes,
so does he.
I mean, you got Karl Malone, like you're saying, the Jazz never won one, which he would have. I mean, some of these greats deserve to have a ring, but sometimes it's not how it goes.
It's not in the cards when you're forced to be played against.
Right, and so
these other greats.
He probably had to throw the ball, 50 times a game because it was the only option they had, But yeah, so there you go, Dan Marino, my number 2. All right, John, you're number 3.
Well, the last team I mentioned, he played his majority. Last person I mentioned played his majority of his career at the Colts. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna stay with the Colts, but a different city.
There we go.
Johnny Unitas.
I figure. Yeah, you go, old Johnny.
Taking it back to old school. He made that transition from when they actually became the NFL, from before and into it. I mean, you can't talk about great quarterbacks without his name coming up.
Oh, I mean, I was saying earlier, if Dan Marino changed it to some degree, Johnny Unitas changed it for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't throwing the ball much back then, honestly.
No.
It was run. It was like run.
Before Johnny Unitas, a lot of the style of NFL plays was like going to see a high school game. There's a lot of running going on.
It was probably dull. I mean, there's a reason the NFL didn't start picking up until Joe Montana, Dan Marino, because it was dull. I mean, I'm sure it was exciting for the people that were watching it, but if you took us back to those games, you'd be like, okay, yeah, this is...
We might have enjoyed it while we were there, but as far as televised games go...
Yeah, I can't imagine, right? Can't imagine.
Yeah.
And trust me, I love a good defensive game, but those games were just, like you said, run, pass, run. But, yeah, he said, no, screw this. I'm throwing the ball because I can. It doesn't look like a football player. It's almost like that Peyton Manning thing. If you just saw him in a room, you'd be like, okay, yeah, this old dude, man. Yeah. But I've watched some Johnny Unitas games on NFL Classic, and the man could play. I believe he played in the greatest. They call it the greatest NFL game of all time. Which, okay, come on, guys, let's move past that. But it was Baltimore versus, I can't remember the other team, but they play it on NFL Network all the time, and they've colorized it now. It's very cool to watch. But yeah, I mean, it's a good one, man. He's obviously one of the godfathers. I mean, basically set the mold for what quarterbacks will be today. All right, good choice, John. Johnny Unitas. All right, I'm gonna grab the guy then. You know, it's hard following a winner. I mean, it's tough. You know, I mean, some people.
You going with the Mormon?
Yeah, some people can never do it. Some people grab it and say, "I'm going to be." If I'm not as good as them, people will at least know I'm in the same league as them. And I have to go with Steve Young. Steve Young, man, it's crazy sometimes. And I think I like the Packers. I mean, Packers had Brett Favre and moved to Aaron Rodgers. That's rare that happens. But after Montana, Steve Young came in and just dominated the game. I mean, one of the first quarterbacks that utilized running as well as passing.
Oh,
you know.
Yeah, I mean, he's got records for rushing touchdowns.
Right. I mean, he was fun to watch. I mean, he basically took the banner of Joe Montana and moved it up and kept the 49ers relevant for many more years than they should have been. And it's crazy to think. I mean, he was in the wings waiting to play, like, get me in this game, you know. And I definitely watched a lot of his games growing up, and he was always enjoyed watching him. There's a few others that I like that, you know, I'll mention at the end, but he was always – I love watching Joe Montana because he was like a field general. But Steve Young was like, I'm getting out here and making plays. If I've got to throw it, if I got to run it, whatever I got to do. And just a hell of a player. I mean, all these dudes are Hall of Famers. But, yeah, he, you know, to take that pressure and really take it up to the next level, it's hard to paint a picture of football without talking about Steve Young. So that's my number 3, Steve Young. All right, John. So we've come down to your last choice. Let's see if he goes with Vince Young here.
No, I won't be going with Vince Young. Uh-oh. Well, yeah, I mean, you took 2 of my guys there.
Of course.
John
stumped.
No, I mean, I've got somebody on the tip of my tongue, but I feel like I'm missing somebody.
That's
so
number 4. Doesn't matter,
to,
bro.
I mean, you
if you don't know you're 3 down, you know.
You mentioned him. I'm gonna have to go with Aaron Rodgers as my last pick
over Brett Favre. Wow.
On paper, he just looks better.
Wow.
And Brett Favre is great. I'm not dissing him in any way,
right.
But I mean, for as great as it was, that gunslinger attitude, it got him a lot of interceptions, and that kind of brings his numbers down. As far as greatness goes.
I don't like Rodgers personally. So
I don't either. That's why, I mean, another reason why I really want to put him up there.
I would put Brett Favre. But I get your saying.
But
Aaron
I mean,
Rodgers,
on paper, he's better.
He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL every year. Once again, sometimes with no one around him. He really should have more Super Bowls. That's my big knock on him because he is capable of pulling wins out, you know. I don't know. Sometimes the cards just haven't lined up for him. You know, sometimes bad things happen. But, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and act like he's not an elite quarterback. Yes, he's one of the 25 best that's ever played the game. I mean, some of the throws he makes, Hail Marys, it's just fun to watch. Yeah. I mean, you never know the game's over until 0 hits when you're playing against him. And that's the cool thing about him. Yeah, I know. And that's another one that had to follow up somebody tough. So, all right. So, Aaron Rodgers, filling you out. You're 4. Okay, my last one here, I've got a choice because – I mean, we've named a lot of great quarterbacks, but we haven't mentioned any black quarterbacks. And I think that's kind of unfair to the story of football. You know, it has been a primarily white position. And I think there's a lot of racial stereotypes that went into that. I mean, black quarterbacks had a harder time playing. I mean, you look at the Steelers. I mean, their best quarterback was a black dude, but Bradshaw kept playing. You know, I mean, and so coaches for a long time, it was, well, black guys can't play the position. So I'm trying to think who really revolutionized it.
I mean, you're also looking at, you know, front offices that wanted to sell tickets and
right.
think
yeah.
that.
So when you think of a guy that really revolutionized the game, I'm just going to name the guy that I think really when we look at a lot of the modern black quarterbacks, who there's some great ones out there, but I think this guy was a big influence on all of them. He was one of my favorite players growing up as well. But Randall Cunningham, to me, kind of changed the way we looked at the quarterback position. I mean, this was a guy that literally could run for 60, 70 yards.
So many times. I was watching some sports clips, highlights. He's in a lot of them. The guy knew how to. I mean, it's like his knees could not touch the turf.
He was
when someone was trying to get out. He dodged and broken. I don't want to say broken. Finessed his way out of so many tackles that.
Well, just think of the players after him. I mean, you're talking. He
Donovan
influenced
McNabb,
Michael Vick, Steve McNair, current guys. Jeez, I can't. Vince Young. You're talking even like some Russell Wilson in there. The guy that plays for the Ravens now. I'm blanking on his name. Lamar Jackson. Yeah, Jackson. All these guys owe something to him. I mean, he took that position and said, "Hey, a black dude can play and can win and can be great at the same time." And like, I would have loved to pick Michael Vick because I mean, Michael Vick when he was playing was one of my favorite players. Like, phenomenal to play, phenomenal. Fun to play on the video games and things like that. But as a kid, young David was watching Randall Cunningham just going, man, if I was a quarterback, I would want to be that guy because, that looks fun out there. So I think it's just important for the evolution of the game to know that, and I could have picked Warren Moon.
It did make it look fun.
Right.
Yeah.
And I could have picked Warren Moon's another one. Doug Williams was the first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. But I think Randall Cunningham in the history and like the clips and all that's a lot more, just more important a little bit. I love Warren Moon too, though. But,
when you're watching Cunningham on the field, you're watching him. You're not just watching that team.
Right, yeah. So he was fun to watch.
Yeah.
So a few we didn't get to. Obviously, I had Drew Brees, Brett Favre, Warren Moon, and John Elway were really the only ones that I would have on my list. Is there anybody you can think of?
I mean, those kind of...
That's kind of it, right? I mean, it's an evolving game.
You mentioned Russell Wilson.
I think if we do this in another 15, 20 years, I think Russell Wilson will come up. I think Patrick Mahomes stays healthy. He's going to come up. These are two guys that are just elite right now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is the most fun guy to watch right now. Like, so much.
I mean, he's a gift to the Chiefs.
Did I want Brady to win the Super Bowl? Yes, last year. But I wouldn't have been upset if Mahomes won. I mean, I love this guy. I mean, he does things that you shouldn't be doing out there, and he just and he seems like a really like good guy. He's good with the media. He seems, I just like that. I mean, some of these guys, like Aaron Rodgers, he's kind of just a punk, right? And so you almost don't want to root against him unless you're probably a Green Bay fan. So but yeah, man. But that was it. So I'll go over the list one more time. John had Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, Johnny Unitas, Aaron Rodgers. I had Tom Brady, Dan Marino, Steve Young, and Randall Cunningham. That is the Mount Rushmore of NFL quarterbacks. Let us know who we left off. I'd like to hear a list. If someone's on there, I'm sure someone's got a quarterback out there like, hey, you forgot about this Otto Graham. I'm like, all right, dude.
Bart Starr.
Let's chill. I mean, and for older people, for sure, yeah, they're probably like, yo, these were the best. Like, okay. I mean, Terry Bradshaw is one I'm sure people might mention. I mean, just because he was the first guy to win like 4 championships, so that's important as well. But all right, well, we've come up to the end of the show. It was another good one here. I had a lot of fun talking NFL, talking Marvel. Like I said, can't wait to see that Spider-Man movie. And then rest in peace, Charlie Watts, man. You left behind a good legacy. So anything else we're missing? Anything come to your mind this week, John?
I did actually finally get the chance to watch Black Widow.
And what'd you think?
I really enjoyed it.
I liked it a lot. I told you.
Florence Pugh is just...
What did I told you, man.
Phenomenal.
Better than Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Florence Pugh anyway. If she's in anything now, she was in some like Victoria, England show. Oh, Little Women. I watched it. I was like, she's so good. She's so great on screen. If you haven't watched Midsommar, it's like a horror movie, but she's one of those actresses that she captivates you while she's on screen. I thought she was, so I'm looking forward to her as Black Widow. That's what I'm saying. Like, I love Scarlett Johansson. I think she's one of the most attractive women on the face of the planet. And I grew to like her as Black Widow, but she was never like one of my favorite Avengers. But I think Florence Pugh has the ability to be one of the top Avengers as they move into phase 4.
I would say that I liked Black Widow more than I did Wonder Woman.
Oh, Yeah, I would go with that 100%. You know, yeah, I that's fair. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, it's not one of the top elite Marvel movies, but it's definitely in the middle. It's not one of the bottom ones.
I mean, as far as like nobody really having like superpowers,
right? Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
all the supporting characters were pretty fun. They're pretty good. I mean, they're pretty good. Dude, the Russian guy was great. I mean, that was
Red
great.
Guardian.
That was a great character. I liked it. I was like, that dude.
Yeah, David Harbour did really well on that.
I mean, funny scenes, but kept the seriousness around, and it pushed the.
Well, I mean, that whole dinner scene, it went from just like hilarious, then all of a sudden, like
really
deep.
Yeah,
all
serious
of a sudden.
stuff. Yeah.
And
so if you haven't seen Black Widow, that's a good call, John. Good one there. All right. Well, go watch that. Go watch the Spider-Man trailer, and then go listen to all of our past episodes. You can do that at bybpod.com. That's bybpod.com. You can go there for all of our past episodes. You can get to find all of our social media things. Like I said, we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We're now on TikTok, still making those TikTok videos, trying to climb up the TikTok ratings, but it's tough, man. People don't really want to see a 44-year-old dude. I say that, but there are some 40-year-old people, but I spent hours today working on a stupid TikTok. I want to close with this. I spent hours working on this TikTok video. I said, you know what'd be funny? That Sarah McLachlan commercial where they're showing those dogs and stuff. I was like, that's funny if I can make that about podcasts. Like, every day a podcast goes unlistened to. And I'm like, all right, that's funny. So I watched the Sarah McLachlan commercial. I'm like, I copied like step for step. I wrote down like, okay, this happens at this part. All right. So I make the whole video. I'm good with it, Upload the damn thing, and it comes back and goes, copyright infringement. I'm like, copyright infringement? What is this? I hear songs on this stupid platform all the time, and apparently the rule is certain songs can only be played for 30 seconds. So I had to go redo the video 4 or 5 times. I almost just gave it up, John. But it's up there now for God knows who. But if you want to go watch it on TikTok, go do it. TikTok, blame your brother. You can go do that. But we're all on socials, and you can subscribe, download the podcast, tell your friends about it, and hopefully it entertains people. That's the goal with the end of that. I usually tell people it's a chance for us to hang out and talk, but also hopefully it entertains a few people while we're doing it. So that's it, bybpod.com. Share, rate, review. I guess all that being said, John, anything else?
Don't blame yourself when you can blame your brother.
Omaha!